And greetings, everyone. This is Terry Naturally with another edition of Terry Talks Nutrition. We're here every weekend, same time, same station. You can't miss us. If you're here now, just come on back. We'll be here for a long, long time. There is never an end to the ideas of health and nutrition and how to obtain a healthy quality of life, no matter how old you are. Maybe it takes a little bit more work, maybe a little bit more effort, but we can become healthier wherever we are, and no matter what our challenges are. And once you realize that 98% of all of our so-called diseases, because they're really not diseases, they are disturbances, they are metabolic disorders, they are dysfunctions based on the quality of life that we choose. That means we choose what we eat, good or bad. We choose exercise, good or bad. We choose the quality of sleep, good or bad. We make choices every day that affects and influences the health of our body. If you eat junk, your body is full of junk. And that junk is so-called diseases. And the drug companies have talked the FDA into telling them that those diseases can be treated with drugs and not food. So they're laughing all the way to the bank because they are prescribing drugs for conditions that are influenced by our choices. Type 2 diabetes is not a disease. It's a metabolic disorder caused by the amount of sugar that we consume. If the doctor says, oh my gosh, your blood sugar level is so high, your blood shows that you have so much sugar in your blood, I'm going to have to give you a drug. Why? Where do you think the sugar came from? It came from your table, your dining room table, your kitchen table. It came from your knife and fork. It came from the food you put in your mouth. If you're going to load up on a lot of sugar, where can it go? It's going to go in the bloodstream. And then they prescribe a drug and even sometimes insulin to bring down your blood sugar level. Don't eat the sugar. That's not rocket science. It's so simple. But we consume so much sugar per individual per year that where can the sugar go? It can only go in your bloodstream. And then the pancreas still tries to take out that blood sugar level, bring it down. And our cells are full of sugar. And then we have a very, very high insulin level, which causes all kinds of other disturbances. We are a mess, only because of what we choose to do. It's so simple. You want to be healthy? Change your diet. Change your life. Change what you're doing, because you can't continue to do the same thing over and over and expect to be healthy. If you're unhealthy, that means you're doing something not correct. So you have to correct what you're doing. And that's an effort you have to choose to do. It's so, so simple. But we'll talk about a lot of good topics today. We're going to talk about oyster mushrooms and a very interesting compound that's found in oyster mushrooms that can treat cold, flu, viral infections, upper respiratory tract infections in a very few days. It is so effective. If you suffer from cold and flu every winter and viral infections, this is a topic you don't want to miss. And then, in the 1980s was a perfect storm for weight gain. Why did people gain weight after the 1980s? And are you deficient in a number of nutrients that can only be supplied to you through your food? Our food contains nutrients that feeds our body for a healthy body. But if you don't eat the right food that contains the right nutrients, you're not going to nourish your body. And why is your body clock so important? And you know, GLP-1 has induced constipation. And you know, inflammation is not good or bad. It just is. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not good. And how do you turn it off when it's not good? The deadliest cancer for people under 50, colon cancer. It is spiked in young people. And it's not the salt you eat, it's the sodium. How would you like to have a very good, healthy heart? Do you know if your heart is healthy? Do you want a very simple way to measure the quality of your heart health? Very easy. It's not cholesterol. Cholesterol is our friend. We make so many hormones, vitamin D, out of cholesterol. We are men and women because of cholesterol. It's not the bad enemy. We don't need a war on cholesterol. We need a war on triglycerides. Now, here's a very simple way to tell how healthy your heart is. It might take you a few dollars. It might be a little bit of effort, because only your doctor can give you the markers that will tell you how well your heart is. You got to find out what your number is for triglycerides and the number for the HDL cholesterol. You divide the triglycerides, the number for triglycerides, by the number of the HDL. Like if your triglycerides are 150 and your HDL is 30, that is a 5 when you divide the two. And it should be 2. 3 is okay, but 2 is the best choice. Now, it's not a choice because you can't change it unless you start making some changes in your diet. Triglycerides come from carbohydrates, from sugar. The more sugar you eat, the more carbohydrates you eat, the more triglycerides you manufacture in your body. It's a fat that comes from carbohydrates and sugar. So when you divide your triglycerides by your HDL number, you want at least a 3. And maybe 2 is better. Not 5. That's way too high. You want to be below 3. So you need to get those numbers. And you can do that by a blood test. Find out what your triglyceride number is, divided by the number of your HDL. So if you have 90 or 100, and your HDL is 50, then you have a 2. That shows a much, much better healthy heart picture. Just something you should know. When you find out what your triglycerides are and your HDL, you can find out how healthy your heart is. Now let's start off with cold and flu. How to stop cold and flu and viral infections upper respiratory tract infections, the number one infection, upper respiratory tract, with an extract from oyster mushrooms. And the compound that you want from oyster mushrooms is called Pleuran. P like Peter, L-E-U-R-A-N. Pleuran from oyster mushrooms. It's something that we can get very easily and make a difference in how healthy we are. So what is Pleuran? Pleuran is a biologically active compound that supports a normal immune system response. And it is found only exclusively in oyster mushrooms. Pleuran activates the immune system through a direct interaction with compounds that are found in the immune system in the intestinal tract, called the Peyer's patch. It's spelled P like Peter, E-Y-E-R-S, patches. These are compounds that digest the fiber from the mushroom and allows the compounds that are biologically active for the immune system to protect your body and to stop cold and flu in 2 or 3 days. Not 7 to 10 days like normal, but 2 to 3 days. This makes it very different from other natural immune medicines like elderberry and echinacea. In fact, you should be very, very careful of elderberry and echinacea because they boost the immune system. They stimulate the immune system. So if you have an autoimmune disease like lupus, or if you have RA, rheumatoid arthritis, or if you have Hashimoto's disease, MS, there's many conditions, diseases that are caused by overstimulation of the immune system. Now, elderberry is not bad. Echinacea is not bad when used appropriately. When you want to boost, stimulate the immune system. But you don't want to do that if you have an overactive immune system already from an autoimmune disease. You don't want to stimulate. You don't want to drive it further. Now, Pleuran can be used for both autoimmune disease and to boost the immune system because it balances, it modulates the immune system. So Pleuran is extremely effective because actually it works directly on the bacteria or viruses. Elderberry and echinacea does not. They don't directly kill bacteria or viruses. It alerts the immune system to make your own defense stronger. So this is very important. Now it's great. Pleuran is great for preventing upper respiratory tract diseases. Clinical research, over 40 studies on the clinical research that validates reduced incidence of upper respiratory tract infections, especially over recurrent infections like the common cold, the flu, COVID-19, sinus infection, ear infection, tonsillitis, bronchitis, asthma, allergies, COPD. Reducing immune response and suppression associated with exercise. People that exercise, which I think is great, but there's a limit. Exercising too much does not do more for your body, but actually to tire it out, to fatigue it, to exhaust it, and suppress your immune system. You're overdoing it. 40 minutes of exercise, an hour of exercise. Gentle exercise. Not that you pound your body. No pain, no gain is way out of whack. You want gentle exercise. When you exercise, you should finish exercising when you still want to do more. You don't have to do more. Exercise to a point that stresses your body slightly, but not into exhaustion. So how do you use Pleuran, oyster mushrooms? Well, first of all, take in the morning on an empty stomach. Why do you want the stomach empty? Because these pyre patches are in the intestinal tract. And if you have food in the intestinal tract, then they do not reach the pleuron of the oyster mushroom. So you get far less benefit when you have food in your stomach, because food can block the pleuron from the receptor site on the pyre patches. Now you want to use the pleuron, which is the biologically active component of oyster mushrooms, along with 100 milligrams of vitamin C, 100 milligrams of Pleuran, which is a really good daily dosage for both adults and kids. Kids would take just one serving. Adults maybe 1 to 2 servings. And then in a case where there's very, very acute cold and flu, you come down with a fever, you come down with cold and flu. Now you can also keep your doctor involved, because if you have a fever, you want to make sure that it doesn't get out of control. Fever is good, but it can also be very bad. But if you want a combination of Pleuran for short term, for chronic, acute, I shouldn't say chronic, acute cold and flu or infection, then you use 300 milligrams of Pleuran with vitamin C and zinc for short-term use for adults, not for kids. 100 milligrams with vitamin C is great for kids. That is a good serving. And for adults, they can also use that as a preventative and just for a mild cold and flu. But if you have a very strong event with cold and flu or infection, acute, then you use 300 milligrams. There are 2 formulations that can answer your need for strengthening the immune system and killing off the infection. Use this daily. The preventative source can be used daily. The acute, where you might have a very, very strong cold and flu, use it every day, first thing in the morning, on an empty stomach for about 4 or 5 days. Usually 5 days will knock out any infection. Now, the 1980s, why was that a perfect storm for weight gain? It's a very interesting article. This is when, the late 1980s, when obesity took off. Obesity rates, after being relatively stable for decades, shot up in the 1980s, nearly doubling in just 20 years. What the heck happened? In 1980, the official dietary guidelines told Americans to cut fat. Do not eat fat. Do not eat cholesterol. Do not eat saturated fat. Everything should be low, low, low fat. When before 1980, fat was not an enemy. Now it has become an enemy. Ansel Keys, a scientist at the University of Minnesota, did not even do any clinical research, just observational research, looking at countries that ate fat or not fat. So what happened? Food manufacturers made low, low fat everything. Everything had to be low fat because that was what the government, doctors, drug companies were all saying, fat is bad. That is totally, totally malarkey, baloney. I've got better words, but can't say them. Cookies, salad dressings, yogurt. It was all fat-free. And now, what can you replace fat with? Sugar. The fat was replaced with sugar. More carbs, more carbohydrates, less fat, no fat, avoid cholesterol. So high fructose corn syrup, a cheap sugar from corn. Cheap, sweet. And added to all that fat-free foods that we gave up, that we were told not to eat. We could not eat butter. They recommended margarine, fake sugars, synthetic sugars, artificial sweeteners. And the intake of high fructose corn syrup went up 1,000% in 20 years. It's the most damaging sugar to our body, and most of it is used in soft drinks. Soft drinks has caused the biggest balloon. Yes, like balloon, your body is the balloon. Obesity. And the portion size increased because you were always hungry. And everything went supersize. Daily calorie intake increased by 200 to 300 calories daily. Screen times went up. And we stopped moving. Home computers, cable TV, video games got people staying in, sitting down more than ever before. If you look at pictures in the 1970s and prior to 1980, everybody is slim and in good shape. Now, it's just the opposite. People have increased in weight by not exercising, by eating the wrong kinds of food, proteins and fats, healthy fats, not the seed fats, the seed oils. We need healthy fats. Lard. Yes, lard. Tallow. Duck fat. Olive oil. Butter. Cream. All the good fats. Avocado oil. Pecan oil. Macadamia nut oil. The best oil you can use is olive oil. It has all the omega-9 fatty acids. Oleic acid. Plus it has over 200 natural nutrients. Dr. Mary Flynn said it's the most perfect food ever. and it can actually regress, reverse, prevent, and cure every major disease known to humans. Now, the consequences of this weight gain. Oh, my friends, the clock on the wall says I've got to stop here for just a few seconds. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to leave. I'm going to come back. And don't you go anywhere either. And if you do have to go away, enjoy your day. Have a good time today. Change your life by changing your choices. I'll be back right after this, right here on Terry Talks Nutrition. I'm Terry Naturally, back right after this. And welcome back, my friends. This is Terry Naturally with Terry Talks Nutrition. You're getting a dose of nutritional information that I hope you take it in a really way that'll make a change in your life. We're here to help you enjoy a longer life, not a bad, painful, miserable life, but a healthy life. That way into your 80s or beyond, that you'll be healthy, happy. It can happen to anyone, but you have to want to do it. You have to make changes. You can't keep eating the same junk you're eating now and expect to be healthy. Even with drugs, it doesn't make you healthy. Drugs do not make anyone healthy. It treats the symptoms of your condition, but your condition doesn't get better. Now, the consequences of a weight gain to the point of obesity because of sugar and the reduction and the fear of fat, you don't have to fear fat. Fat is very, very healthy for us. In fact, we have to eat fat to be healthy. They're called essential fatty acids. They come from fat. We need them every day. We don't need sugar every day. We don't need carbohydrates every day. But we do need protein and quality of fat. Now, 1 in 6 people, about 17%, get this, 17% die every year from complications of obesity. Something that people choose to do. Eating the wrong food, excessive sugar and carbohydrates, soft drinks, garbage. If you're going to eat garbage, you expect to have some garbage that you have to clear out of your system before you become healthy. And new studies right now predict that nearly 126 million Americans will be living with obesity by the year 2035. 9 years from now. 126 million. Now, when considering fat distribution, as well as BMI, about 70% of Americans can be considered obese. Now, the best way I find to determine the right weight and fitness for everyone is that your waistline should be half of your height. So if you're 6 feet tall, half of that should be your waistline. But even people with normal body weight can still have excessive fat deposits. So you want to get your fat levels down. So if your height is 6 feet, 72 inches, your waistline should be 36. Now I'm 5'5", And I had a waistline of 36. I was way out of shape. But all you have to do is change your diet, give up the carbohydrates, the pasta, the bread, cakes, pies, pretzels, pizzas, whatever has carbohydrates. Give it up. Good quality protein. You need about 120 to 140 grams of protein per day. And you need about 120 to 180 grams of fat per day. And carbohydrates, the less is best. If you're really, really out of shape, really overweight, you need less than 20 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbohydrates per day. You could go up to 40 if you're not too much overweight. And if you're fairly fit, fairly healthy, but you have a lot of arthritis, pain, inflammation, type 2 diabetes, you could still get healthy up to about 72 grams of carbohydrates per day. But if you're trying to sneak in a way to lose weight effectively, get your carbs down to 20 grams per day. I wouldn't go any lower than that. If you did, you should be under the care of a physician. So if you have normal body weight, you could still have fat deposits, especially abdominal fat, that pot belly, that beer belly, that bread belly. All comes from carbohydrates. And that will increase the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and organ failure. This is sometimes called skinny fat. I had a friend that has since passed away, but she was overweight all of her life. Half her life, she was at a very low weight. The other half was a very high weight, and it could come anytime. So she dieted and then gained the weight back. She would diet, gain the weight back. Diet, gain the weight back. Now, every time you do that, every time you lose weight and gain weight, when you lose weight, yes, you lose fat on your body. And you lose muscles. Every time you lose weight, 35 to 50% of the weight you lose is muscular weight, your muscles. Now, when you put weight back on, you gain fat, not muscles. So if you're losing weight, try to do some resistant weight training. You can run, but you're not getting stronger. You're losing weight when you run. You lose muscles when you run. So the thing is to use weight-bearing exercises to maintain a strength to your body when you lose weight. Now, there are two great health choices to lose weight. Number one, absolutely cut sugar. Stop feeding your body sugar. Why do we have to stop eating carbohydrates? Like potatoes, starches, bread, all the flour grains, because they convert in the body to sugar. That's the only way they can be metabolized, is converting the carbohydrates to sugar. Now you have more sugar. So cut sugar, cut carbohydrates. Focus on whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible. Whole fruits, not juice, not dried. Whole fruits. Eat an orange, eat an apple, eat berries, but not dried, not juice. Eat vegetables, the non-starchy vegetables. No potatoes. Fresh fish, beef, chicken, duck, fish. Oh, I already mentioned fish. All those are good things. Now, if you want a little bit more education, check out the books. Grain Brain, Grain Brain, Grain Brain, by Dr. David Perlmutter. And the other book is Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis. This will give you a lot more inspiration and motivation to make the right choices. And you can never fail to add olive oil to your diet. At least 1 tablespoon a day would make a difference. And fat does not make you fat. Fat will thin you out. The more fat you eat, the more weight you'll lose. If you don't add carbohydrates and sugar. Now, if you add both, you're in trouble. And studies have shown that when overweight people follow a healthier diet and increase their olive oil intake, they lose body fat. That's what you want, folks. And now we have a new nutrition pyramid. More protein, full fat dairy, no 2%, no non-fat. You need the fat. We need the essential fatty acids. We need the essential amino acids from protein. We don't need sugar. The body was not meant to eat sugar. Make sure they're healthy fats, less carbs, and less ultra-processed foods. You can make such a difference. Excuse me. You can make such a difference in your life. You'll gain strong, fit, healthy body. You'll be able to resist viral infection. You'll have a healthy immune system. You can make some big differences. So that's the best choice you can make. So now, are you deficient in nutrients? Nutrients are the compounds, the components of the food you eat. We don't eat food for the calories. We don't eat food for the pleasure. We eat food because that's the only way that our body will receive a supply of the biologically active nutrients in food that makes us healthy. Food makes us healthy, not drugs and not junk food. All the carbohydrates, at least 95% of all the carbohydrates consumed in America, have been refined and processed to strip all the nutrients out. So that food, that white flour and sugar, can last in your pantry for decades and not spoil. They actually have done studies with mice. And they put sugar and refined flour, bleached flour, in a pantry with whole foods, whole grain flour. The mice ate the whole grain, not the refined flour or the sugar. They look for healthy nutrients. So you can be very deficient in nutrients if you don't eat the right food. Now, there are very subtle signs of nutrient deficiencies, sometimes called small, minor issues that can signal that you are deficient in essential vitamins and minerals. For example, eyelid twitching. You might need more magnesium. Brittle, split fingernails. You might need iron or biotin or zinc. Cracks in the corners of your mouth. You might need more B vitamins, especially vitamin B2 or zinc. Now you may have muscle or bone pain or weakness in your muscles. You might need more vitamin D. Now there are books in the market that you can buy that will give you all kinds of information on what nutrients you need to correct these conditions. That's how you get healthy. You don't get healthy with drugs. Drugs do not make anybody healthy. They'll cover up the symptoms, but not make you healthy. So get nutrition daily. Add a good daily multiple. They have shown that just even a bare minimum of a daily multiple can add 2 or 3 years to your life. And the most expensive product you can buy may be the one that does not do anything for your health. You deserve value for your money. Choose a multiple vitamin and mineral supplement that contains a full range of vitamins and minerals at more than 100% of the RDA. The RDA, the regulated daily allowance, is what you need to prevent a full-blown nutrient deficiency, not what you need for optimal health. Nutrients are for everyone. We all need the nutrients, maybe more or less of some nutrients, but we all need all of the nutrients that are available for human life. You don't need vitamins that are sold for age or gender-specific formulas. We don't sit at the kitchen table and have a dish for mom and a dish for dad, dish for the kids. They're all the same. So you don't need to have a women's formula or a men's formula. We need the vitamins and minerals that are required by all human life. And nutrients that are optimal forms for absorption and efficacy. Active forms of B vitamins and chelated minerals. We need the nutrients that everyone requires. Now, why is your body clock so important? You have an internal clock. Everyone's body runs on its own time system that regulates when you sleep, wake up, feel hungry. I have never in my life used an alarm clock. I wake up at the same time every day. Now, when I travel, I will set an alarm clock because you never know, and I'm not going to miss a flight. I'm not going to miss the train. I want to be there on time. So I will just precautionarily, I will set an alarm clock. But otherwise, I never ever use an alarm clock. And this system that's instilled in your body. It's called the circadian rhythm. And it coordinates your internal systems in a way that almost seems uncanny. For example, the hormone cortisol is released in the morning to give you energy when you wake up. The digestive system anticipates meals based on light exposure and sleep patterns. So optimize enzyme production and liver detoxification when you are ready to eat. Melatonin is critical for keeping your body's clock aligned with daylight and darkness. So when they tell you to take melatonin an hour before you go to bed, everybody goes to bed at a different time. But your body knows when it should release melatonin. And when darkness comes, that's when the pineal gland in the brain releases melatonin. Not at 9 o'clock, not at 10 o'clock, not at 11 o'clock, not an hour before bedtime. At sunset, it releases the amount of melatonin your body needs. I wrote a book on melatonin because I was so fascinated by it, because it's not for sleep. Oh yeah, of course it'll help you sleep better, but it is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatories, one of the most powerful antioxidants. It regulates all of the rhythms of your body. It's a miracle what melatonin can do. So read my book, Melatonin. You can find it in health food stores across the country, or you can find it on Amazon. Probably go to your health food store, because I know many times they give books away free just to help you become more educated on your health. If you go to Amazon, you probably will have to pay for it. Now, disrupted circadian rhythms, but your internal timing can be thrown off by other factors such as working night shifts, stress, jet lag, neurological diseases like Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's, and by medications, drugs. When the circadian rhythm isn't regular, it can cause insomnia, digestive issues, lack of energy, even dementia. A recent study found that people with weak, disturbed circadian rhythms had double the amount of Alzheimer's disease and dementia versus people with strong, regular circadian rhythms. So how do you reset your internal clock? And you can. Stick to a regular bedtime and allow for enough sleep. Go to bed at the same time every night. Get sunlight in the morning. Why? Because it tells you to wake up. Keep your room cool and dark at night. I keep my bedroom temperature at 65, and I only use a sheet to cover up. I don't use a comforter. I don't use a blanket. I use a sheet. I want to be cool. You sleep so good when you're cool. Of course, I'm always cool. Bad joke. Even more light can interfere with your melatonin. If you're sleeping in a very dark room and you get up to go to the bathroom and you turn the light on, you just stopped all the melatonin from being secreted, or what you have just taken before you went to bed. So don't have a nightlight in your kid's room, because they will not get a good night's sleep. It'll throw off the melatonin production and throw off the circadian rhythm. And supplement your body with melatonin. It can be 2 milligrams, 5 milligrams, I don't know how much milligrams you need because everybody is different. But take it at dusk, sunset, because it'll help your body prepare for sleep. Not an hour before bedtime. Everybody goes to bed at a different time. Our body secretes it at a very specific time. Sunset. When dark comes over the night, that's when we secrete melatonin. So try melatonin. 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams. Try to find your level of what you need for melatonin and take it at sunset. It prepares you to go to bed for a good night's sleep. When you take it an hour for bedtime, it may not work for 2 or 3 hours. But when you take it at sunset, it already prepares you for sleep when you go to bed. An hour before doesn't allow you to have the right rhythm of melatonin to fall asleep quickly, efficiently, and productively. So that, my friends, I've got to run. I'm all out of time. But say a prayer for this crazy, crazy world. And God bless you, my friends. And God bless this great country.
Thank you for listening to Terry Talks Nutrition Weekly Show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, including Apple, Google, and iHeartRadio.